Game journalists will not stop talking about Palworld's player count numbers, and I just can't anymore, guys. I keep getting notifications to my phone from various game media websites about how Palworld has either lost its entire player base or has lost 97% of its players or whatever. And while some of these journalists try to explain that this isn't a big deal, a lot of them kind of portray it as a way to sort of dunk on Palworld, and today I want to quickly talk about why this doesn't even matter. Now, let's start by discussing the fact that Palworld is an early access game, meaning that it's incomplete. Once you've completed that sort of main gameplay loop, which is like, catching pals, building up your base, defeating the 5 tower bosses, etc., there isn't much content for you to explore outside of catching more pals and finding some of the collectibles scattered throughout the island. That being said, this isn't a dig against the game at all, because again, the game's not complete. The entire point of early access is to give people an early look at various parts of the game without bringing forth it in its entirety until it's received critique, a lot of QA testing, and this also helps with funds midway through a game's development. Now, a lot of people will use the fact that Palworld is in early access as a way to sort of defend against these claims that the player counts are down, and I don't even want to go that route because it's not even relevant when you think about the big picture. Palworld, yes, has multiplayer aspects to it, a lot of which are not in the game yet, and I feel like when things like PvP and the arena are added, we're going to see a larger stable player base, but a lot of people are playing this as a single player experience, and just like any other single player game, we play the game, we beat it, then we put it down. It doesn't matter if Palworld is in early access or if it's fully done and it's lost 97% of its players. The reality is that most video games follow this type of trend, especially those that don't primarily focus on competitive PvP. The fact that Steam shows player counts is being used as fuel against Palworld when, in all actuality, I'm pretty sure if we could see like Nintendo Switch player counts, for example, a lot of games that were insanely popular probably have similar amounts of people left playing. How many people out of the 20 million that bought Scarlet and Violet are still playing? I see a lot of people talking about Pokemon, but unless you're into breeding, shiny hunting, or competitive PvP, you're probably not playing the game and are just anticipating the next title, which is completely fine. Palworld was a massive success in terms of sales. It hit numbers that we've never seen in the genre before outside of Pokemon, and even if Palworld's player count never even reaches 10% of what it once was, the game has succeeded and has still made a major impact. It's also very funny because even during some of the lowest periods, the game still has been more popular than Temtem at its peak, so people saying that the game is dead conveniently leave out the fact that even with such low numbers comparative to the initial release of the game, it's still got a lot of people playing it. And again, this isn't a dig against Temtem either, just Palworld is insanely popular. The developers are also not worried about their concurrent player base either and sort of view these types of articles as needlessly creating drama and an us versus them type mentality, so keep that in mind too. I think a lot of people just want the game to fail, but at the end of the day, if Palworld was out on Switch and not Steam, for example, nobody would be talking about the game being less active because those player counts wouldn't be visible, and people would have just looked at the game's sales, seen that it was a success, and then just kind of went from there rather than acting like the game is something that needs to have an insane amount of players all the time. I haven't really dived into Palworld too much lately either. I've done a lot with my game, I've built a few bases, I've caught a bunch of the pals, and I'm just waiting for the next big content update like a lot of other people are. Sure, the raid update looks cool, but it's not something that was put in the game to add longevity, it's just a small feature that they've added with a new mon. So a lot of people are just still waiting. I don't know guys, it's been pretty quiet in the monster taming genre overall, and it seems like no matter how quiet the genre is or what's going on outside of Palworld, there's this weird obsession with its player counts, and I think that part of this is just because the journos are trying to get some rage clicks or tap into that massive dormant market that is the Palworld fanbase. Anyways, long story short, and the point of this video was to dispel the idea that the concurrent player base for a game like Palworld even matters. It's not an MMO like Temtem, it doesn't force online play, and its current major features don't require it either. Nobody talks about how pretty much every other successful monster taming game on Steam has a fraction of its audience playing, because most of those are just single player games with the option of multiplayer, and Palworld should be treated similarly, especially while it's in early access. Anyways, if you're a fan of monster taming games, Palworld, or whatever, definitely subscribe to the channel for daily videos. Again, things have been pretty quiet. I wasn't even planning on making this video, but I keep getting these like push notifications on my phone, and they're always Palworld articles about how the game's losing players and this and that, so I figured I'd address it. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Special thanks to our supporters, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Candy Morency, TragSoft, and Nemo, and we'll see you next time. Peace.